No.
All right, we are live. Hello and welcome to the Nerdosphere. I'm one of your hosts, Clayton, joined as always by the biggest mustache in the biz, the biggest palate this side of the Mississippi, Corbin.
Yo, dude, what's up, man? How you been, man? What you doing, man?
I've been doing just fine, bro. And we're also joined by Tim Selleck himself, Tim Jarin, the scourge of the galaxy.
I'm relatively shaved.
Tim,
I feel like this is how I look. This is like peak Tim is just like a little shadow because the mustache doesn't work, the beard doesn't work. I think just a little scruff and I'm good to go.
I will say, Tim did participate in the 10-year challenge, taking Facebook by storm. And in the 10-year challenge, the proof has been in the pudding, and that Tim actually does not have a receding hairline. That is just his hairline.
I have a receded hairline. It's not
Okay.
actively receding. It receded at some point when I was probably like 8 or 9 years old. And this is just where I'm at.
I mean, I've been saying that for years. Anytime you bring up, look at my hairline, it's the same hairline since high school. Like, nothing's
same line,
changed.
Now, the bald spot on the back, the yarmulke, that's getting bigger for sure.
Which
But
in
let's
that
not-
effort,
let's not
I think
talk
you
about
should.
that.
I think you should probably, like, on a part-time basis pick up Judaism, so you can just cover that up.
I mean, that's why I shaved my head last year. And it was the most freeing thing I ever did. It looked like shit.
Yeah,
but
it didn't.
It felt amazing.
You're not meant to be bald yet. And
No.
I know that our listener Matt is all for you to join the bald game because he wants men who are losing their hair to be bald and proud. And I
Yep.
love him for that. But you're not ready to join those ranks. We need you on hair team.
So here's the thing. I feel like in order to really pull off a shaved, completely bald head, you need a couple of things going for you. You either need facial hair. I have zero facial hair. It looks like shit. Or I feel like you need to have like a really strong jaw. Like I feel like if you have a strong chiseled jawline and a shaved head with, a relatively clean shave or just a little scruff, you look good. I have a weak ass jawline. I have like double chin because of my weak ass jawline, and I can't grow facial hair. So I'm stuck with team hair, even if I'm not supposed to be there.
The double chin's weird too because you're skinny as fuck.
It's because I don't have
you have a little pouch.
It's because I have no chin. I mean, like, seriously, like, look at how stretchy my skin is. It's because there's no chin there. I'm supposed to have like chin here.
It's fine.
He looks like, is it Star Trek that has those guys that stretches their faces out?
Yeah.
Check out the Batwing, bitch.
It's funny how you broke down what being bald requires, because as you're going through it, I was like, well, Matt doesn't have facial hair, but Matt does have a defined, strong mandible. And I'm sorry, ladies, he's taken. But his jaw is one that commands presence and respect.
You need strength in your face somewhere.
Yeah.
I have no strength in my face at all.
You could always just shave the eyebrows too, and then people will be like, "Oh, you're one of those like hairless people."
Yeah. What's the
or he could shave the people are doing, where they shave just like the line out of their eyebrow.
That's too hip. I can't do that. That does not fit.
Why couldn't you?
Can you imagine?
That does not.
Can you imagine with the way Jody dresses this man in full-on dad clothes, and then he's got the hip eyebrow cut?
I'm wearing stuff that I've had for like 8 years right now. I can't do this. This does not fit my look and my vibe. So, and shaven, I mean, I guess I could go full whoopee, but then everybody would really be looking at me and be like, gosh, he literally looks like a dickhead.
No, it'd bring character.
I think that it would. I think we need to try this. I think that 2022 is the year of experimentation. You've been stuck in your ways a little bit too long. we need to branch out, and we're gonna make a TikTok series of trying trends on Tim. Triple T, Trying trends on Tim.
It sounds fucking awful.
The marketing writes
T-tot.
itself.
Trying
Yes.
trends on Tim. T-tot.
Oh,
Hello
shit.
and welcome to another T-tot.
I think that this needs to happen. I'm sorry, Tim. It's just the way it is. On our next Bros weekend, we're going to film months worth of content in 3 days. We're going to try so many hairstyles on you, so many clothes.
We've always fucked this up. We should have recorded me trying to learn how to smolder. That would have been gold. That was golden content that we just completely fucked up.
Our most gold content is the content we don't give the people. You're right.
That's true.
It sucks. You're getting our sloppy seconds.
Oh, goodness. All right. Well, if you didn't know, this is the Nerdosphere, where a podcast that discusses everything from the big screen to the small screen and anything in between, whether it be books, movies, shows, video games, music. If you can nerd out about it, we're going to talk about it. Remember, you can find us on all sorts of platforms, and we would want you to rate us on those platforms, especially if you're on Spotify, which has recently introduced the star rating system. So if you are on an Apple device, nothing new, scroll on down, give us a rating. If you're on Spotify, scroll on down, give us a rating. And if you really love what we do, go check us out over at patreon.com, where you can learn how to support us for as little as $1 a month, and you get cool exclusive content like another supplemental podcast and other ways to participate with the Nerdosphere community. Tonight.
Real quick, you know what's really cool that we do as a perk for our patrons?
What's that?
We've done it once. We're going to get it going regularly. Jackbox games.
Mm-hmm.
Just sitting down and playing some games and having some beers and laughs.
That was very, very fun. Yeah,
it is a blast. So I promise you, there is a perk that is worth your time if you check us out on Patreon.
Yep.
I stand firm that our Patreon offers far more than our competitors as far as things.
We do offer a lot.
We do. And before we go into the topic, Clayton, I did want to say, I forgot to say this earlier. I took Brahms and Maple out earlier today, and there was something that I needed to get out of the yard because Brahms was fixating on it. And without thinking twice, I picked it up with my right arm and I threw it past the point of mobility, and I cried.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was a trying experience. I needed to share it with you. I needed to be open and vulnerable because I know that this is a safe space for me to
It's
talk
not.
about my
You're
woes.
weak.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen you throw with a fully healed, full strength arm.
And you cried then too.
And it's not a pretty throw, so I can only imagine what this throw looked like with an arm that's semi-broken at this point.
Tonight we're going to be discussing Dexter New Blood, the highly anticipated return of Dexter, one of this podcast's favorite shows. We love Dexter. We talk about it all the time, seems like. And we've been waiting for this return, been highly anticipated, as I said. We've been super excited. It is over. We have watched all 10 episodes. We rode along with Dexter each week, and now the finale has passed this week, and we are diving right into the show. Now, be forewarned, we'll probably give our impressions at the beginning, but this will be a spoiler topic. We cannot discuss this show without discussing what happens. So if you have not seen Dexter, what are you doing? Go watch it. If you have not finished Dexter, go finish it and come back. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and just jump right into it. Tim, get us started.
Yeah, so before I give my take, I have some interesting stats that I want to share that aren't spoiler. You're still in spoiler-free territory. Dexter New Blood, the premiere, drew 9.1 million viewers. making it Showtime's most watched drama debut of all time.
Dang.
So people still love Dexter. The proof is in the pudding. The series averaged 7.6 million views across all platforms, which is the highest average of any Showtime show ever.
Wow.
So Dexter New Blood is the most successful IP, the most successful singular season of a show that Showtime's ever had. And when you think about Showtime, there's Dexter, there's Ray Donovan, there's Homeland, there's what's the comedy that everybody loves? It's on Netflix. I can never think of what it is. Shameless.
Oh yeah, Shameless is Showtime.
There's some huge names there. So Dexter is clearly a moneymaker for Showtime. I thought that was super interesting. I could not believe that the show averaged more than what Dexter did in the height of Dexter. And I think that just really is a credit to what Netflix and now Amazon Prime have done for Dexter.
Mm-hmm.
All these people discovering it that had no clue what it was, or maybe barely knew about it when it was actually airing. And the show's popularity grew to a point where it could take an 8-year break and come back and be Showtime's most successful show of all time. On top of this, Showtime had its biggest 30-day sign-up period in the history of Showtime, right around the first episode. So Showtime, Dexter is incredibly well-loved, and I'm shocked that we see these types of numbers because these are elite level numbers for number of streams.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Wow.
Yeah. So I'm going to dive in, still spoiler free. The ending is controversial. Some people are going to love the ending. Some people are going to absolutely hate the ending. I'm going to wait to tell you how I feel about the ending, but I'm going to tell you my feeling of the series as a whole. And it's that it was a very worthwhile experience. I feel like the show was able to regain its magic very quickly. I feel like the story was really well done. I have a couple of issues with small things here and there, which is to be expected of any show. It's definitely not a perfect show, but it was well worth the ride. I was a little nervous coming into it that I would look at this and say, this is a money grab. This was not worthwhile. We should have left Dexter where we left him 8 years ago. And I can confidently say that the 10-episode arc that they gave us was well-deserved and worth your time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. This, I think, was needed. I think this is Dexter's return. It was just needed. There was too much controversy with how season 8 ended. I know that nobody is a huge fan of it. I know I've defended it a little bit, but I'm not like a huge fan of it. I'm not going to die on a hill for it, but it didn't impact me as negatively as most people, even though it was still like kind of a blah situation. But this return really grabs that initial magic that sucked you in the first 1, 2, 3 seasons of Dexter. Like this, I said this in our text thread, I would sit and listen to the theme song during the credits until the credits were over. I don't do that. There's just something about Dexter that they were able to capture again with this series that just like you don't want to leave. So I'm so glad that they brought it back. Well worth your time. Well worth your time.
Indeed. I think for me, I kind of feel like it's the best season of Dexter yet. You know, I know that seasons like the Trinity Killer hold a special place in our hearts as fans. But this show was so well paced and executed that it was my most stressful season of Dexter. And for me, when Dexter is firing on all cylinders, it's when it has me needing a Xanax, because the nature of what Dexter is doing, is so risky. And they just did it perfectly. So for me, I walked out of this season. I got opinions on how it ended. I still think that it doesn't overshadow my impressions that I think this was the best season. If you are a fan of Dexter and you haven't watched this, what the fuck are you doing? I know that Joey, who listens to this show, he didn't want to watch it without his wife, Rachel, but she really wanted to wait for all of it to air before they could watch it. And there would be days where he had told me, he's like, I'm really excited to watch it, but I gotta wait. And I was like, you need to avoid all spoilers for this show, because any spoilers that you get will ruin the ride. I mean, you'll still probably like what you're seeing for the most part, but I was white knuckling it on some episodes. I was like, what? And then the episode would end and I would be left breathless. Like, this season was a visceral experience. I haven't had that in TV in a long time.
Yeah, agreed. I just pulled up Showtime's website. 30-day free trial still out there. So if you're a fan of Showtime, cash in that free trial to watch Dexter New Blood. It's a no-brainer. They've had promotions here and there. Like, I think we probably all got it when it was $4 a month for 6 months or something like that. Mm-hmm. It's only $11 a month right now. So even if I don't have a free trial, this show is absolutely worth me going through the pains of paying Showtime for 1 month to watch this show.
To binge it, yeah.
It's absolutely worth it.
Definitely. Yeah. All right. Let's just jump into spoilers. If you're still with us and you haven't seen it, this is your cue to dip and come back. Press pause, come back after you finished it. Let's just start from the beginning and go through it. I think probably I don't know. Where do we want to start? We want to start with impressions of Harry? Do we want to start just impressions of...
I mean, yes, no. I think we talked about some of that when we reviewed the first episode, right? So, I mean...
Yeah, we did.
So I think that at this point, it's more of just talking about how it was all packaged. So if we're talking about Harry, it's more of like, do we like what they did with the character and where he ended? And the same with everyone else, including the Deb Ghost.
Well, let's talk about the villain of the series, which was that Kurt guy.
Clancy Brown.
Mr.
Krabs.
Do we feel like he was a good villain? I think like he was a great villain, especially for, this small town. Dexter chose this spot because he wanted to keep a low profile. He didn't want to kill anymore. You pick a small off the map town, not expecting to run into like a crazy malicious, maybe the most deadly besides himself, as far as body count.
And his trophies, bro. His trophies.
Yeah. So I was really pleased. I think the only thing that I wasn't pleased about it was when they were trying to maintain the mystery in his getup. It was because of his body shape, the actor's body shape, and because of his beard, it was painfully obvious that he was in the snowsuit. So any sort of, mystery that they tried to hide using that in the beginning of the series was lost.
Yeah.
So I wish that they could have figured out a better way to do that. But overall, I really liked him. So
I want Corbin to spend some time on this, but general impressions for me, I actually disagreed with Corbin. I thought the pacing of the show was really good until we got to the last 2 episodes. And I felt like the last 2 episodes were way too rushed for how impactful they were for the series. So I really had a problem with how they ended based on the pace. And as I sat back and tried to think, what would I have taken out of the show? Because it was never going to be more than 10 episodes. Like that was from day one. It was Dexter's only going to return if it's 10 episodes. He's not going to do 11. He's not going to do 12. He's going to do 10 episodes. So if I have to go backwards towards the beginning of the series and think about what I would take out, the red herring that they gave us early on, I don't know if you guys remember the red herring, but it was the big oil company, and they tried to paint
I totally forgot about that.
The owner of the big oil company as potentially the guy who was killing the girls. He had that moment where he tried to pick up the police chief's daughter, who was actively protesting big oil when he was in town. And they were really trying to like plant that seed of doubt that maybe it's not Kurt, maybe it's big oil guy who's only here periodically, who's maybe an asshole behind the scenes. And ultimately, once the reveal happened that it was Kurt, we don't see big oil guy again. That all of the time we spent watching the protests and seeing the story with the big oil, which wasn't a ton of time in the grand scheme of things, but I don't think the red herring was worth it. It would have been better for me if people just assumed it was Kurt and then it was revealed to be Kurt, because the shock didn't pay off and the red herring was kind of a waste of time, in my opinion.
I think that was more to give it the feeling of Dexter. So like when you're watching the original series, you as the audience member are trying to figure things out with Dexter. So I think that was put in there for that reason. So I do understand what you're saying, but at the same time, if we didn't have that aspect of even just that small aspect of, is it this person, is it that person, would it have still felt really Dextery? So
I would have agreed with you if at some point Dexter was looking into the big oil tycoon.
Fair point.
Thinking,
fair point.
Okay, there's murders happening. Is it this big oil guy? At no point was big oil ever on Dexter's radar at all.
Very true.
So I think I would agree with you if you could see Dexter trying to figure out, is it big oil? Is it Kurt? Is it somebody else? Like the whole time, as soon as Dexter got involved, he knew it was Kurt.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think when you talk about precious time, that probably is something that you could have trimmed back. I do agree in a sense that a lot of things had to just like be fucking rushed at the end. And I did feel like some things were kind of rushed. Like I know Clayton's kind of has talked me off this ledge a few times, but I just don't fully buy Angela actually picking up all these pieces. Like it's just the reality of the situation of like, yeah, she can be smart, but she's a small town cop with not a lot of training, like in the sense of like someone who would have been in Miami Metro and is like this seasoned detective. So I just don't buy the idea that she's just this diamond in the rough that is just so clever that she's the one who picked this all up. And I also couldn't get past the idea of all of this evidence that was mounting against Dexter is just circumstantial. None of it proves it. And the whole thing about the U.S. court system especially is it has to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. And you cannot build a case on circumstantial evidence. Like there has to be something concrete. And nothing that she had on him should have even worried him to the point where I think he made an uncharacteristic choice in attacking Logan to get out of the jail cell. So I really was vibing with this show until I felt like it forced itself to like get into like third gear and get it done. And I was like, the Dexter wouldn't do this. He wouldn't make this rash decision. The first rule is don't get caught. And he fucking attacks Logan in the middle of the police precinct.
I think that's the reason he did do it.
Yeah,
was because the first code dictates don't get caught. And I do agree. I think he would have gotten off on the Kurt Caldwell case. I think once he sent Angela to Kurt's underground trophy case, I don't think there's any way that he even makes it to court, because he would say the gas truck was there. It still smells like gas. It's empty. He fled. And there's, 25 dead bodies in this basement. And you already arrested him previously for the murder of a girl that you couldn't pin because of DNA. He would have gotten off completely on that. There's no doubt in my mind. But the X factor is that Batista's now involved. Batista's wife died. Batista, I don't know if he ever really thought that it was Dokes. I think he accepted that it was Dokes. But you have to think that there's always this shadow of a doubt that the biggest case in Miami Metro of Batista's career is this Bay Harbor case. Ends up being a guy he sits next to his whole career. There's always got to be just this little seed of doubt that I hope we got the right guy. And then all of a sudden, you get a picture sent to you of Dexter Morgan, who allegedly died 8 years ago. And this cop has said, look at the wheel marks on the neck. They match up with the Bay Harbor butcher case. There is no chance that Dexter would have gotten away with it once Batista was involved. I think he would have got away with the Kurt Caldwell case. I don't know if he would have ever gotten out of prison because they would have turned around and charged him with the Bay Harbor case before he was released. There's no doubt in my mind. There is enough evidence there to fully convict him of the Bay Harbor crime. Maybe he ultimately beat it, but man, it does not feel like he was going to beat the Bay Harbor case at this point.
As soon as she showed him the pictures that showed the wheel marks, that's when he knew he had to get out. And that's why he sent her away. He didn't send her away to get off of Kurt Caldwell's case. He didn't do that.
Nope.
He did it so he could escape. Because as soon as he saw those pictures, he knew. And didn't she say to him that he was going to get extradited to Florida? So
he said, we're going to extradite you to Florida because the death penalty
it was over. I
still don't think there still is no proof that he's the one who stuck the drug dealers.
No, but
there's no proof.
Oh, come on. But still, it doesn't matter because that got him in that position, and they would still extradite him to Florida under suspicion of being the Bay Harbor butcher, and then that would have, you know what I mean?
I just don't think the case would hold up. It's too
the Bay Harbor butcher case.
Yeah,
LaGuardia was ready to. The only reason he didn't go down for it was because LaGuardia died. LaGuardia had everything.
I guess I'm fuzzy on that aspect of the show.
LaGuardia had everything needed. She was waiting for him in the shipping container.
He was
ready
going
to arrest
down.
him. It was a done deal. And you have to imagine that she was telling this to Angel at the time.
Oh, yeah.
You have to imagine that Angel completely knew what was going on.
No, not really, because he talked fondly of Dexter to Angela.
The evidence, he talked fondly because he had no reason. He has a seed of doubt, but I think he's at the point where he's dead. It's
dead,
pointless.
It's gone, yeah.
You know, you let it go. But then all of a sudden, oh, you're not dead. Why would you have faked your death? Oh, these people have wheel marks in the exact same spot that everybody else did. Oh, it's ketamine, the exact same thing that the Bay Harbor butcher used. Like, you start adding all these things together. I think it would have been hard for him to beat the case. And even if he did beat the case and Corbin's right, Angel's not the type of guy that lets Dexter just walk.
Yeah.
He's going to essentially become Dokes. And I mean, I don't think he would have ultimately gotten away. So I think him attacking Logan, while it's uncharacteristic because we don't see Dexter attack innocent people generally, we have seen it happen in the past.
It does happen.
It does happen. I think the first rule of the code was driving, and he was caught, and he needed to let himself out. And then most importantly, his love of Harrison, and he knew that he needed to get Harrison out of Dodge as well because it was going to get ugly for Harrison. So I think both of those things made it a characteristic move.
Yeah, that was another huge motivating factor that may have pushed this move that you felt was uncharacteristic, Corbin, is he's still thinking of Harrison as well. Not only I can't go back to Florida, I will potentially go to prison, but at the same time, I can't chance leaving Harrison alone again. Like he's finally connecting with him, or so he thought. And
I thought the letter at the very end was the most human moment we've seen out of Dexter, and it helped everything make sense. It helped the unrational move make complete sense. He called Harrison his phantom limb and regretted that he wasn't there with them, and he feels this pain of him everywhere he goes. I think we finally saw Dexter become a human, and when somebody becomes a human, they do irrational things. Yeah. And we saw him act irrationally at the end. Because of his love for Harrison. I think he realized at the very end, so we can jump to the end here, I hope. I feel like at the very end, he realized Harrison was not going to be with him because Harrison sees that the dark passenger is in control, does not like that he killed Logan. And I think he's realizing my only options here are to turn myself in, Not doing that because my whole life has been based on a code that says not to do that. I can run away to LA, but what's the point of starting over now that I have love for my kid and he's in my life, knowing that he does not want anything to do with me again, that he's choosing now not to do anything with me. The whole time it had been Dexter choosing not to do anything with Harrison as a form of protection. But feeling that rejection in that moment, knowing that even if you get to LA, the heat is on and people are going to be looking for you, like it made sense that he went the route he did. But again, I felt like that final interaction between Harrison and Dexter was so rushed. It is the defining moment of Dexter's series. It is. It's like, how does Dexter end? And it felt forced and it felt rushed to me and it did not feel authentic. I actually
felt like
go ahead.
I was going to say, I felt like the fallout was the most inauthentic. Like the whole point of Dexter, like basically freeing Harrison of him. Like, you don't need to have the weight of me, kill me, is so that he can have this life that he found and that he wanted. Harrison wanted to be an Iron Link. And the idea that Harrison had to leave, even though the whole point of him killing Dexter was so he could pursue a life here, made fuck all sense to me, especially since Angela is already willing to lie and cover up that he shot him and say that she didn't even see him, when it would just be as easy to lie and say he shot him out of self-defense. Like, there is no reason to force Harrison out of this town.
I mean, I think Harrison would have left naturally on his own. I mean, how do you stay in that town at that point? Like, your life is ruined in that town. You've watched your father dismember somebody gruesomely in that town. You had a hand in that. You've now killed your dad, which had to be emotionally difficult for Harrison in that moment, even though he felt like a rock. That's going to fuck with Harrison moving forward. If we end up getting a spinoff on Harrison, which, not to derail us, but Clyde Phillips, who is the original showrunner for the first 4 years of Dexter, which most people would consider the best 4 years, and he is the showrunner for this season, has openly said, I have a lot going on, but if Showtime called me and said, we want to know what happened to Harrison, I would drop everything that I'm doing to create a Harrison show.
I wouldn't watch it.
I don't know if I would or not. It doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like it'd be necessary to me. But there's nothing there for Harrison at this point. There's nothing. Mm-hmm. His relationship with his girlfriend can't possibly survive because Angela would not let that survive long term. There is no chance. It would be too awkward. It'd be uncomfortable. Him leaving made complete sense to me. It really did.
Do we think that, okay, so, we always talked about, we even did an episode on how we think Dexter should have ended, or we had a conversation about it because we have clips of it. Oh, Jesse was on the podcast as well. I, in my heart as a fan, have always known that the right ending for Dexter is for him to die, that he's not going to get a happy ending. He has to die. I do feel like after getting such a phenomenal season, I honestly felt a little bit cheated that we didn't get maybe one more. And I understand that is coming from a place of gluttony, like give me more. And they probably wanted to go out on a high and not risk having another season of ups and downs. But to your point, Tim, about this being rushed, would it not have been better to have another season of Harrison with Dexter, learning more about the code, and we get more emotionally attached to Harrison as a character? So that way, when Harrison realizes my dark passenger is not the same as this is not okay, and he needs to put his father down, it would have meant more.
So, yes, I want more Dexter, but I've got to read something that I have pulled up here for you guys. A lot of people don't know this, but Michael C. Hall did not have as much creative control over Dexter as you would have thought through his second contract. Michael C. Hall's on record saying he does not like how the show ended. He didn't like it at the time he recorded it, and he's grown to hate it even more the 8 years that he's had to sit and think about it and hear fan reactions. Here's what Michael C. Hall said about the ending. Some people will have predicted it. Some will be shocked. Some people will accept it. Some will reject it. I think it will be difficult for people to grapple with his fate, that he is someone that they've spent a lot of time with and have a lot of affection for, at least in some cases. But before I signed on, I knew Dexter had to die. Dexter is not a superhero that should be idolized. He should not continue to get away with every situation that he's in. And if we were to allow him to continue to get away with the stakes this high, it would have been inauthentic and a slap in the face to the fans. The way that this season concludes is one that resonates with me. It feels justifiable. As upsetting as it may be, I hope audiences will appreciate the resonance of Dexter dying the way that he did at the hands of his son. People moaned about an ending that was admittedly open-ended and without any sense of closure. Michael C. Hall then flashes his Dexter-like smile. I guess you have to be careful what you wish for. So Michael C. Hall has been on record saying the only reason he came back was because he said, I need creative control on how it ends. And through this interview, he says the first thing that he did was sit down with Clyde Phillips for 4 days and say, let's figure out the ending before we shoot anything. Because if I don't like the ending, I will not return. And after 4 days, they were in agreement. Dexter had to die, and this is the way that they needed to do it. So just knowing that, I think, is important. Michael C. Hall didn't want the show to keep going and going because he didn't want to lose the leverage on how it ended. Like Michael C. Hall always saw this as a one-season run, not something that would revitalize Dexter. And at the end of the interview, he said, Dexter will not be back in any form. If there is a Harrison spinoff, there will not be a Deb Morgan-like ghost haunting Harrison. So Dexter's dead. I mean, it is what it is. I do wish we would have had more time with Dexter because this season was phenomenal. We've never seen a show come back after an 8-year delay. We've never seen this. They got a second chance, which is unprecedented. And in my eyes, they knocked it out of the park. I do think it was rushed. I would have liked more time, but I think given all the information that's out there, it was definitely the right call to wrap the series up where they did.
Yeah.
Clayton? I know I'm kind of dominating. Do you have any other thoughts there?
Well, I mean, I was just letting you guys talk. I completely disagree with it being rushed. I didn't feel that at all. And I thought that the ending was actually pretty genuine. The moment Dexter sees in Harrison that Harrison doesn't have a dark passenger, he's just an angry boy. He knew he had to die. He knew there was nothing that would help Harrison other than that. If he survived in any form, whether it be go to prison, whether it be escape to, become anonymous all over again, or this giant manhunt, it would all hurt Harrison. And the only reason that Harrison was kind of semi on board was because he thought Dexter was being genuine with his justice talk, which we all know he was not. He was just using that as a selling point to kind of pull him in. But you can see it in their interaction when Harry flips from, son to agitator, and Dexter can see
he's not winning.
He's not going to win. He can see he doesn't have his dark passenger. Like his whole point, his whole existence at that moment in time was, I love my son. I would give anything to be with my son. But the giant motive behind that was, I need to teach him the code because he is like me. He needs to be so he can survive. And when he sees that he doesn't need to do that, then he's ready to let go.
Yeah, it was a moment where essentially he admits that Deb's been right the whole time. Deb was right the entire time. He would still be alive if he didn't keep Harrison in. I disagreed with that. Most importantly, he had a chance of actually being Harrison's father if he would have dealt with his mental health issues straight on. If he would have stuck with therapy, worked with Harrison's anger, found a way to deal with that beast, the ending for Dexter would have been very different. So Deb was right the entire time. Not right about everything, but big picture, she was right, and Dexter knows that at the end.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, I didn't at all ever feel it was rushed. The only major issue I had was most of the events were kicked off by Kurt finding out Dexter killed his son, and we never get any sort of explanation as to how he could have possibly known that. Dexter burns the body in the furnace. Kurt somehow finds the medical screws from his son, but there is no way that he could have put it to Dexter. No way.
It was a big leap that definitely needed more time to be explained. The only explanation that Kurt gives is that when he got home, he realized it wasn't snowing, that it was ash.
But that doesn't. How does that connect it to Dexter, though?
It was, I mean, that's exactly right. It was just the timing of Dexter picked me up, and he probably went the next morning to that furnace and found that screw when he realized it was ash and thought, okay, why is Dexter out at, when the bars are closing, sober, driving around? It would have been much better if he would have just flat out said, you realize that when you burn a body, you're going to walk away smelling like it, right? Right. Because I do think that, I think if you're standing over an open pit fire like he is, it can't be any different than a bonfire. If we go stand outside by my fire pit, we're going to smell like smoke right out of the gate. So I'd have to imagine, like, to me, that would have been much better for him to say, it smells like fire in here, and then him to connect the dots, but they just completely glossed over it.
There's just no explanation. Even just that, or some, like, maybe his minion, like, sees him, like it's revealed later in the season that he saw him, like, at that place or something. Like, there's no connective tissue at all. So at least with, Corbin's got the issue with how realistic is it for Angela to put all these things together. At least we get those pieces.
Sure.
With her end.
That's true. I guess so. What I get stuck on is I'm picturing like the sheriff in Fredericktown. Like, when you go to these small towns,
but see, the sheriff in Fredericktown's not competent.
No. Like there's a fundamental reason why that's not the right thing to picture, because Angela's whole career and her life, her ethnic life, hinged on the fact that she was not able to solve the crime of her best friend and subsequently dozens of other women that Kurt killed. She made it her obsession to figure out, where are these 25 girls? And it comes from her tribe rejecting her because she was unable to solve the case of her best friend missing. And she held herself responsible for her best friend missing in the first place because there was friction there the night of. So I don't think this is like a small town cop who's never really had exposure to homicide. She's made it like her full-time job. And I imagine there's not a lot of crime in this small town. So she's probably spent an awful lot of time thinking about, where did these girls go? What do I have that connects it? I think her brain is wired differently than somebody in Ashland, Missouri, where there's like maybe one homicide every decade. It just feels like she's fundamentally wired differently based on her past.
Yeah.
Fair.
I think you mentioned this in passing. I think what made Kurt so intriguing to me was the minion aspect. We haven't really had a powerful guy, a connected guy, go up against Dexter in the past. And I thought that was a really cool element they added. The second or third to last episode where Dexter is abducted and gets shot. And that's one thing that they glossed over. He got shot in the leg and he's just fine like the next episodes. So there's a little something there. They also don't show what happens to that cabin. He didn't go back and clean it up, really. I mean, it's inferred that the body's not there anymore, but there were some issues with that. But I thought that was a cool. Show him go back. Oh, did they? I don't remember.
They didn't. I don't think they showed him how he disposed of the body, though.
Well, they show him cleaning it up and stuff, so you just kind of, your mind just connects the dots. I thought
that was a cool nuance to Kurt that we haven't seen before, where it's like his presence was ever looming because he had all these people willing to work for him.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty neat.
powerful in the community, so his opinion and voice had sway, plus actual legitimate minions.
Yeah, who are willing to like do illegal shit for him.
Yeah.
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 I was sitting here thinking about the ending and how I struggled with how it felt rushed, and I felt like the emotions were kind of blank. And I watched a really neat interview with the actor who played Harrison, and it made the ending make a lot more sense to me. So the actor, I need to look up his name. His last name's Alcott, I think, or Alscott.
Jack
He is
Alcott.
Yep, he's 25 years old. When he auditioned for the role, he had never seen Dexter because he was too young to watch Dexter when it came out and never really caught up on it. So he auditioned for the role, got the role, and then starts binging it. Was not able to finish the series before he started recording. So he felt like he was constantly trying to get the feel for Dexter and emotionally connect. And he said what the hardest part of recording the finale was, they recorded the final scenes like in the first week of them filming Dexter. And the reason they did that was because they wanted the aesthetic of the snow on the ground. And they were afraid that if they recorded it out or in order, that the snow would no longer be there. So he said, literally within my first few days, I'm killing Dexter Morgan. And I haven't had time to have the roller coaster, the emotional bonding that happens between actors happen yet. And on top of that, I still am working on connecting with the character. I thought that was incredibly interesting for him to say, like, I shot killing Dexter early on and it did feel flat to me. And it's because I didn't have a full month of working with Michael C. Hall. I had like 3 days of working with Michael C. Hall, and then I have to go kill him. And he said that was the most challenging thing that he's ever had to do, was try to make the climax of this huge series have meaning and feeling when he's recording it right out of the gate without having time to actually work alongside with Michael C. Hall.
That's interesting. And also bravo to Showtime for keeping that under wraps.
It is. And he got in big trouble, he said, because he spoiled the ending on set. Showtime only gave the ending to Harrison and Dexter. It was redacted for everybody else. And within the first week or two, he'd said, like, yeah, he was talking about how that was the hardest thing he ever shot. And the cast and crew were like, what? You killed Dexter? And he's like, shit. Well, didn't you read the script? And he's like, our script stops before that scene happens. So I don't know. I thought it was smart for Showtime to only give the ending to a few people. Maybe next time tell the actors, like,
that's definitely not his fault. And he should feel guilty about that.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like the Marvel movies, like the actors know that they're given fragments.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So,
man, I'll let you guys kind of wrap it up. So I feel like I've talked a lot. All in, I like the ending. I like the ending better than what we got in season 8. I think it made sense for Dexter to die. I think it would have been a slap in the face for Dexter to ultimately get caught. When you really think about his whole being the code and the dark passenger, I wouldn't have wanted to see him fail like that. I think I would have liked it better if his death would have been the culmination of multiple fights ending. You know, he gets shot and then he has another minion that, you know, hurts him. And then he has another minion that hurts him. And then ultimately Kurt is the one that deals him the fatal blow, but Dexter's still able to kill him before Dexter limps off saving Harrison. I kind of would have liked a redeeming story arc like that. I also get why Michael C. Hall wouldn't have wanted to do that, because this whole time he's saying, make no mistake, Michael C. Hall or Dexter he's a serial killer. Like, you can agree with why he's doing it, but he's a criminal and he should have a very harsh and brutal ending. And so I think we got exactly what we needed to get. I'm interested to see if Showtime takes them up on the offer to do the spinoff. I have a hard time believing they won't when you look at the numbers. I don't know if that show's worthwhile though.
I don't think it will, that especially now that we know that he doesn't have the same dark passenger. It just wouldn't be.
And it's going to be even harder because you're going to want to see the dark passenger in him come out ultimately. But then that kind of taints the ending between him and his father. It's like, if he ultimately becomes his father, then him killing his father is like
pointless.
It's a complete pointless injustice to fans. So
Yeah.
I don't see how they can give me something that is worthwhile without tarnishing Dexter. And also, I think it's important for people to realize Dexter's legacy is now the Bay Harbor Butcher. That's it. Like, he's been shot. We don't see what happens. We know Angel's going to come. He is going to be painted as the Bay Harbor Butcher, the most prolific serial killer in Miami's history.
That would be what I would want to see. Not a show about Dexter mission. Or Harrison, but about like one recap episode. Show Batista come up, show some news clippings. Like, I want to see how
the fallout.
Exactly. Yeah.
I would have loved that to be the last season. I think Clayton's the one that sent that in a text message after episode 8 or 9. I think, Clayton, you said you were convinced the show is going to end with Angela finding out, and we're going to get one more season, and it's going to be the Bay Harbor season that we've always really wanted, where Angela and Angel are on Dexter's case, and it's like vintage Dexter. And I do wish we would have had that. I think that would have been a way more fulfilling ending. And I think it would have made Harrison killing Dexter feel more justified. Like, at the end of the series, it's very clear that Dexter is about to get caught. Harrison kills Dexter because it's truly the only way for Harrison to get away from it at this point. Is like, no, I'm not an accomplice. I had a window and I killed the Bay Harbor Butcher. I think that would have made a lot more sense in the context of the show.
Definitely would have been interesting to watch. That's for sure.
It does feel like the tease of Batista, it just wasn't used enough, I guess. Maybe that's just me.
It's because Batista
through nostalgia.
Awesome. Yeah.
But like I was like, okay. And he says he's coming down. I'm like, cool. And then the show ends. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like I Angel Batista is such a badass character. And if he was going to be in the show, I would have wished to have seen a little bit more of him for sure. But as far as you dominate the conversation, Tim, Dexter is one of the things that you're most passionate about. You know, Clayton and I love this show, and I would say you both are probably more passionate about it than I am. But Clayton and I have Star Wars and Marvel and shit. I think Dexter is the thing that you've nerded out about the most.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Dexter's definitely my jam.
So when it came time for you to be like, I might skip this week, I was like, no, you record without me. Like, I want to talk about Dexter, but like to not have Tim on a Dexter episode would be the worst thing for the Sphere to do.
It'd be like talking about Halloween and not having him on a Halloween.
Womp womp.
Oh, wait.
That's okay, because Halloween sucked. Everything I had to say was negative. This was a much more satisfying conversation.
Yeah, that's fair. My lasting thoughts are, ultimately, it definitely redeems the ending of the show. I think any sadness I feel is just, I want more Dexter. Like this season showed me that when Dexter is done great, it's the best thing on television. And to have that end will always feel sad. But I have no interest in any spinoff that could happen from this show. I will be excited to reach a point where I'm ready to do a full Dexter rewatch and I can watch the whole show from beginning to end. And this is now the new ending. That's going to be probably a fun experience because I did not rewatch the show in preparation for New Blood. And I think that Kurt Caldwell did a really good job as going down as, if not the best, one of the best killers of the whole show. Like, I really enjoyed watching him unravel. I don't know if he beats out the Trinity Killer, but
I don't think he does, but man, he's up there. And I'm still really partial to Miguel. I really like the best friend arc.
Yeah, in fact, there were numerous times where we were watching it, and every time he was getting closer to letting Harrison in and even showing Harrison, I just kept looking at it and I was like, this went to shit last time he tried to train someone. Like, I just don't think this works on anyone else.
Yeah. It was definitely a perfect storm. Yeah, so my final thoughts are basically just going to mirror your guys. I think this is the perfect way to end the series. I loved every flipping minute of it, even though I had a couple of gripes. As I said, I didn't feel like this was rushed. I really enjoyed the final scenes between him and Harrison. It really kind of brought out Breaking Bad memories for me, like when we watched Walter White die. I don't know. It's just so good. Nice cherry on top. I'm glad they were able to redeem themselves. I think maybe that's one of the biggest reasons why I love this so much, is because they had the chance to kind of come back and fix it. So, yeah. All right. Well, that'll do it for this week's The Nerdosphere. We appreciate you sitting around and discussing Dexter New Blood with us. Be sure to hit us up on the socials and let us know what you thought. If you are on an Apple device and you have not rated us, scroll on down and give us a rating. If you are on Spotify, you can now do the same. Scroll down and give us a rating on Spotify. Giving us a rating really does help get us in front of new audience members. And we greatly appreciate the time you take to do that. If you really like what we do, go over to patreon.com/thenerdsphere, where you can find out how to support the show and earn sweet perks for as little as $1 a month. But until next time, we'll see ya. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Dexter Morgan.
Hello. Surprise, motherfucker. Some fries, motherfucker. Supplies, motherfucker.
All rise,